this last year, I was contemplating on contact that I wanted some pictures of extraterrestrials in the local area. And over years and years, there's been a lot of activity in this area, a lot of history in this area. And I was sitting here, as so often as I've done before in the past, I get what feels like a connection to them, to something. And I got told, go to the forest. There's a forest out here, near a field, a farm field, at this end of Ipswich here in England, in East Anglia, in Suffolk County. There's these really old forests that go back centuries. They were not cut down and turned into farm fields. So they're not large, these forests, these patches of forests, but they can be dated back thousands of years. They are really old forests. A lot of activity has been seen in the local area. UFOs descending and ascending in and out of this one forest. And I had a calling, is the best way to describe this. And I went out of this house and I went to this forest and took my infrared camera, understanding, of course, in advance that they're transphasic matter, they're interdimensional life, interdimensional origins. They can phase their matter, they transphase. You don't see them in front of you, they're not dead, they're not spirits, they are there, physically alive. I began taking photographs. And what came back were a series of pictures of beings that look like extraterrestrials. They have the classic, the big eyes, large round head. And they communicated with me in many ways. It was not just spoken, like in English I heard in my mind, but it was light, colors of light that entered my mind. And I was out there in the forest and I was collecting this information. I was taking these pictures, and then I went back again a second time and took more pictures. And I found myself, when I would go out there asking for the pictures, they were there in the photos. When they weren't there, it was when I didn't ask. I just showed up at the forest. They weren't giving me these pictures. And they look like mantises, large arthropod-looking mantis, 4.5 foot, 5 foot tall mantises. Some of them look like your zetas you talk about. They are the amurthers, and the mantises are the Solipstii. That's what they told me, the Solipstii. And over the many, many years, there have been numerous UFO sightings of UFOs coming in and out of that forest over and over again. And I have taken my sons to walk in these fields, and we've witnessed things. Until 2010, when memories began resurfacing in me, I hadn't got back into the field of ufology or UFOs or anything to do with this subject. And I was raising my family, and I was staying out of the subject. But there, after gaining these memories back of my own lifetime experiences, I got back in the field, and there they were. There they were sitting in this forest, local to my house. I think they've been there a long time. I don't particularly think that they're going to follow me anywhere I go in the world, as I come from America and Texas. If I go back there to live, I'm not thinking that they'd be following me back there. This area is indeed a hotbed of activity. And I've gone to the forest and sat there and meditated alone in the dark, where many of you probably wouldn't go back there after seeing these photos that came out in the infrared pictures. What came up in the infrared pictures were beings that were sitting there. They were right there, no more than about 4 or 5 feet in front of me. Now I knew they were there, and you could hear a clicking sound, like hearing a large grasshopper or mantis. The sensations I've got, the information that I've been receiving out of this has been, it's been pretty in depth. And the pictures alone have been looked at by even the hardest skeptics, who are finding it hard to dismiss them. Some have even suggested that I've placed mannequins in the forest, alien mannequins or something to that effect. And others have said that they've looked at the layers of the photos, they can't see that this is fakery, but they're also saying there is something phasing about the light. And I've been called another Billy Meyer or George Adamski is emerging in front of us at this point. As many predictions that I've put across Facebook have come true. And the photographs are indeed quite heavy, like Mr. Meyer and Mr. Adamski. Now, many have called these guys fakes, and many have called them real. I'm probably going to have an encampment on both sides. I'm a genuine experiencer, having genuine experiences, and I can validate that. How I come across is how I come across. Accepted or rejected, or unsubscribe, or stop talking to me, stop dealing with me. There are too many of you that are taking this subject and you're trying to put into a mold what is a classic experiencer, and you're saying, well, that's going to be somebody like this and like that, and so if you don't fit that mold of the spiritual person who's positive and booming with happiness and la la la, well, then you're not one of them. And I'm just going to throw evidence back in your face and say, yes, I am. And your idea of what them are is wrong. Which I don't think a lot of you would know what a real experiencer is if they came out and bit you on the ass. I don't think that many of you would even know. I'm not putting down. I think too many researchers right now are trying to put this into a Wikipedia definition of an experiencer based on a personality of somebody that a very jovial, happy person. I am a positive person. Nothing I've ever said in my videos or anything I've ever put out there has ever suggested anything otherwise. The fact that I don't grin and sing songs to you and behave very jovially, well, present company included at this point. The Celestii are the grandfather race of the Amartha, or the Zetas. And the Zetas then become the father race. The Zetas then become the father race of the hybrids, the extraterrestrials, the Ashikani Sasani. And when you're dealing with the great-grandfather race of these hybrid beings, they're also, and this is the one that gets a lot of people turned off at this point, the reason the human race exists. This is a 2 billion-year-old civilization that has started many civilizations. They've seeded them. Kick-started the evolution of planets across the galaxy, which has done this. Some of these civilizations are shake and bake. You know, they just add water and there they are, like the Eshikani Sasani. A lot of people would like to dismiss me. A lot of people would like to shove me down the hole. A lot of people would like to, oh, Jason Moss comes off too negative. But he's not saying anything negative. So it's this picky, pokey kind of stuff going on. But again, like I said, where's their evidence? Other than some drawings and pictures. And they're supported by some music that goes along with their videos. It's a pretty girl sitting there with a smiley face and makeup. And she's sweet as ever. And she's cute and running around in a bikini, barefooted, talking about alien contact. She's a South American sweetheart. She's got that little blondie California tits sticking out in the camera. Of course, that's going to gain a lot of public interest. Of course it is. I lost faith in a lot of researchers because they started looking at people like myself, the genuine experiencers, and trying to fit us into a mold of a personality. They wanted to present to the public. There was a guy that wanted to put me in a TV show a few years ago. And he falls off with me because he's like, well, you don't really fit the personality of the kind of what we want to project to the public. We don't want to scare the public about alien contact. And I'm like, well, if you want real experiencers, knock on my door, pal. But if you want a little TV personality, go knock on little blondie girls next door with the tits sticking out. But you're only going to waste the public's time with her. My pictures I put out there, I've taken, and I'm the kind of person to step into the forest and do this sort of thing. Most of you would never go back there if the first picture came up. Most of you would never return to the forest. My 16-year-old, I'm a father of 4 sons. I have a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 14-year-old, and a 9-year-old. I'm divorced. I'm not with anybody here in England. And aside from being an author, I'm a gardener. I have an education in computer, technician, networking. I also hold a level 3 education in science, which is an A level in England, which in America would be equivalent to an associate's degree in science. I have a few certificates in molecular science, biology. I hold certifications in emergency management, 8 of those from the Emergency Management Institute, high school education. I have a certification in firefighting intermediate, because I used to be a firefighter. And I'm also an Army graduate. I think we'll stop there. I got a briefcase full of education. And, you know, and I can bring it to you pretty clearly. It's positive. It's as is. They don't expect or ask me to be a public relations smiley face. Okay? They just want me to tell you the truth and bring it to you as it is. They're here. They're real. And graciously, they provided me with that evidence when I asked for it. When I have, and then when I said, I want a picture of your craft, I went back to the forest and took photos, and there the craft was. It's at a distance. Incredibly, it looks like what many skeptics have debunked, have said George Adamski's craft aren't real. Others can't say either way. But but what I got on my infrared picture was a George Adamski-looking UFO sitting there, which validated Adamski's hard evidence. And yet you've got people debunking him, saying that that's not real, that's not real. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that. I've had experiences with extraterrestrial hybrid humanoids in the forest. There was a girl who looked very human, wearing ordinary clothing. And I thought she was taking a walk, just, some local girl, until a closer look at her. And I got called to the field one day, and there she was sitting on the side of a hill, an embankment, and she kept staring at me. And I went up to her and we started talking. And this isn't about finding a girlfriend or anything like that. This is nothing about that. If you think that's the case, you're overlooking huge amounts of data on the experience or contactee phenomena and how the dynamics of this takes place and what's going on here is very, very much in depth, very in depth. But the evidence that they've provided me is causing me to emerge as another Billy Meyer or George Adamski, because it's getting difficult. Like I said, a lot of people they're angry and they say, well, this is just too blurry. Others are just really freaked out. And like my son said, bloody Jesus, when he saw that one picture of a being with huge, large elliptic eyes, a roundish head, long forefingers reaching across the face, small nose and mouth, and they give off a clicking sound. You could hear them. There have been occasions where I've seen them with my eyes and went to take that picture with an ordinary digital camera, and I didn't really get anything, but the infrared picks up everything because they're transphasic matter. They're transphasic interdimensional technology, which I have to say is I can only put in those definitions as best I can. There's not going to be any other way to explain that, and I don't want to understand that technology. That's none of my business. That's their business. But you and your scientists will never be able to reverse engineer any of this. Trust me. No matter how clever you think you are, with egos the size of Texas, you're never going to get this. That ain't going to happen. But like I said, if you want the genuine experiencers, you aren't going to paint this up for some show, public showiness. You're going to subscribe to me. You're going to talk to me. You're not going to ask me to be any other way than what I am. And my photographs are going to keep you up at night. And even after with your software, you've looked at them and you've analyzed them, and you're going to come back and see they're real. You're going to get an unsettling feeling. That fellow who speaks so frankly on YouTube makes all those videos. Wild claims that he keeps putting out there might be telling the truth.